Hi guys, welcome to this week's AMA. I'm going to make it a brief one. We're still waiting for essentially what's happened over the past couple of weeks is that, as we've discussed in the latest newsletter, in the AMA that was 2 weeks ago, and what I discussed in last week's AMA, we are now that the bridge is in a state where it just needs to be incrementally improved. We're now focusing the entire thrust of the project towards preparing the Cherry storage functionality for a more wider and more business-ready market release. This is quite a promising time for the project, not least because of the much improved market and business landscape at the moment. I'm sure you'll all remember in the depths of last year and the year before that there was not very much business activity and not very much optimism indeed with regards to where the entire Web3 market was going to go and the industry more broadly. So what we're going to do is hopefully hitch our wagon to this upsurge in and renewal in optimism and business activity, more first and foremost, over the next weeks and months. This is quite a large undertaking for the technical experts in the project, insofar as, unlike some other very valuable recent technical milestones, such as, EVM Layer 0, or indeed the bridge, which was successfully completed recently, the push into the storage market is very much a business and revenue focused endeavor. And that means that there are always going to be a lot more human complexities involved in that. Essentially, what we're going to be doing is going and competing with our competitors in a very direct way. This is where the, so to speak, rubber meets the road in terms of our market expansion. As most of you will be aware, Herman touched on these things a couple of weeks ago, or just before Christmas, actually, on the 27th, in a very extensive AMA in which he described the goal of the project to refocus back in terms of and back towards revenue generating activities, directly revenue generating activities, more economically transparent activities that would essentially generate money for the sake of it, as opposed to, for example, partnerships, for example, other forms of activity and development, which can often very much be quite valuable, but they're much more ephemeral. They're much more difficult to get over the line, especially in the continued overall recession, let's say, not in price terms, but in terms of the growth of the industry. It is slightly still in recession. And we want to essentially refocus on the bread and butter of what Cherry is supposed to be about, which is to say that it would not be so much focused on high profile partnerships in the first and foremost, and wouldn't be focused on things like ecosystem in the first and foremost. What we've chosen to do is to redouble our focus on making Cherry a very viable and very strong contender in the Web3 storage for smart contracts market. So while this might seem like we haven't discussed it much, or that we haven't been focused on that recently, it's always been the overall goal of the project. And most importantly, and this is something that I think that a lot of our community members may not have so much visibility of, although our larger partners have a lot of visibility of, is that the Web3 storage market itself is quite up for grabs, so to speak. Some of the larger incumbents, if you were to call them that, which I won't actually mention them, just in the interest of not speaking ill of competition. Some of our larger incumbents have not made a great deal of progress in this respect, in terms of actually making their offerings as business friendly as possible, which is something that we want to do. Now, unfortunately, Herman can't join today because there is, at this point, quite an intense process going on with the founders and the lead developers of the project in terms of identifying and planning for the next milestones, which will be all related to storage and some tooling. And today they're quite busy speaking to partners and they can't join us, but we will get some updates from the horse's mouth, so to speak, from Herman over the next couple of days in this regard. But this is what I've been asked to share, is that the focus on storage is actually happening at a very useful time for the project. And what by that I mean that we're hoping to see more growth in this aspect, in this kind of corner of the Web3 industry, and that's something that we can capitalize on quite well. What does this mean for the day-to-day of the project? It means that we become more focused, less on a uh, business development partnership angle, and more focused on a direct progress, direct marketing, direct business development, and economically focused business development angle. With related to this are some questions, some good questions that a lot of people have posed in the past couple of days in our Telegram group, relating to Cherry storage and what's it all about and what are the technical details of it and why does it need to be like this, and to explain some of the technical statements that have been made by Herman in his quite in-depth talks that he gives us about the technical progress regularly. And to be very frank, I wouldn't necessarily be the best person to ask, given the fact that I don't work on the development team, and the project management of that is quite complex as well. The offering that's being prepared is very complex, and I don't think I would do it justice. However, I think that a lot of these questions are for anyone who is kind of up to speed on the best in class offerings and the developments in Web3 specific to storage. I think these questions are best asked if we actually just go back to the actual the light paper, sorry, specifically page 14, which is kind of chapter 9 about data storage and indexing. And it kind of talks about, collapsing the computational data layer of storage into a more kind of powerful network setup. It's a full page long, very dense text, and it kind of covers a lot of these things. I would encourage people to just read over that. If you want to read the light paper, you can just, if you look up t.me, or sorry, not t.me, it's cher.to/LP. And if you just give me a moment, I'm just going to actually drop that into the chat so that people can follow along in real time. And again, these things are quite important. There you go. If anyone wants to have a look. Oh no, dear. I sent that the wrong channel. Sorry, guys. It was silly me. Okay, excuse me there. Yeah, as I was saying, I'll put it in the group. There's no point putting it as an announcement. Here we go. Yeah, So anyone who wants to kind of follow along, go to page 14 there. And essentially, the main novelty in the kind of Cherry vision on a technical level is its novel indexing system and how it interacts with IPFS, etc. The text is quite technical, but anyone and most of those people asking about storage probably have some degree of technical know-how. That's quite a good document, which remains pretty much unchanged to this day. We've still stuck to the same roadmap, give or take some choices in terms of ordering of release. And if you have a look back through this light paper, especially page 14, as I said, that will address most of your questions, because I know I had a couple of people asking about that, a few people actually, over the past few days. This is going to be the target of the project for the foreseeable future. As Herman said before, we're not going to give a specific date as to when all of these things are going to be released, all these things that pertain to storage, because it's a very, very, deep problem that needs to be solved in terms of all these, not problem, but complex kind of engineering solution that needs to be generated. These things, they touch on very complex questions in terms of software architecture, etc. And I would encourage people to just kind of expect the releases to come as soon as they can, but we're not going to try and rush them too much, because this is very important. It's very difficult. And essentially, this software release around Cherry Storage will actually be the most, probably the most, or one of the most important software releases or tech releases of the project to date. And what that means is probably going back to the mainnet release a couple of years ago. What this means is that we will be focused around this, focused also on kind of marketing in a semi-educational way, the developments and the targets and the roadmap for specific, or the sub-road, so to speak, specific to the Cherry Storage module. We're going to be releasing videos, explainers, infographics, animations. We're going to do Twitter Spaces. We're going to do calls with people on Telegram, etc., from quite a technical perspective in terms of explaining why Cherry is different than other competitors. We are certainly, in terms of investment, smaller than a lot of these larger projects, but at the same time, Web3 itself is a space where smaller challengers can do very, very well. It's not really a question of who has the bigger wallet. It is more to do with, because we have a very engaged audience in Web3, people who like to do their own research, as the saying goes. It's something that is very much going to be the focus of what we put out in terms of marketing, starting very soon. And we're going to overhaul our documentation, and the DAO forum as well is going to be populated with quite a lot of in-depth discussion of what Cherry is building in terms of storage, how this works, how you can use it, etc., etc. The storage module is usable as it is now, but it's not where we want it to be, and we knew it wouldn't be at this point. At this juncture, we knew that it would be in the state that it's in, but we want to bring it to the state where it's very, 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 very kind of readily useful to developers in the Web3 space, whether that's larger projects who want to leverage some of the Cherry storage functionality, or indeed some of the smaller or independent or even single individual developers, talented developers in Web3. We want to make Cherry a component. Certainly won't be something that is the next Ethereum killer or anything like that. We see ourselves as filling a very strong and important niche that many projects and developers will use. So with regards to that, that will be the thrust of our community marketing and our marketing in the near future. I've mentioned this before, and this is something that we really have to put the finer points to, but we will be hosting, bug bounties and development challenges and hackathons. We will be running them fairly soon in the coming months. That will be something that will generate a large degree of buzz for the project as well. And in terms of buzz, etc., and the community, so to speak, we do have an engaged community. We've seen a lot of back and forth over the last couple of days in the Cherry group. There's nothing wrong with that. That's good. It is supposed to be a decentralized project, and we do appreciate, stringent kind of back and forth and discussion. With regards to the price, we have always made it a policy from day one that we're not in the business of market manipulation. We're not in the business of, trying to corral the market one way or another. The whole goal of the project is to provide something useful, and then in the knowledge that will bring price growth in the long term, medium and long term. So we don't talk about the price when the price is reducing. We don't talk about the price when the price is increasing as well. So we won't be, kind of going over or analyzing the price action, positive price action over the past 24 hours or so either. But we are hoping that this will continue on, will continue to gather momentum, and that we will, as we make inroads into the market, which can go either way, but we're hoping that, and we're quite confident along with our partners, that will be quite successful in fairly short order. And we are hoping to maintain that momentum into the near future. Or into the long-term future, actually. So I just wanted to, aside from giving the general update and pointing you towards our light paper for questions about indexing and data storage, I would also suggest that people who maybe haven't checked out our latest, the update that I published on Notion, the preceding AMA recap, also published on Notion, which discussed Herman's points regarding wider strategy. And then finally, I think that people should also look towards the discussion in our newsletter. The newsletter also links a lot of these documents, so the newsletter probably the best place to start. But otherwise, as I mentioned, the team are currently planning for the storage release. And just to sum up, that will be the focus of our marketing and our community activity and partnerships in a more kind of economically straightforward manner over the next coming weeks and months. You've seen that we've been active on Twitter again, and that's going to continue, and it's going to ramp up very, very quickly. We have a social media strategy for this. It's been a very challenging couple of months for the team, just kind of solving some of the unforeseen issues around bridging and stuff like that. But everything is going as it should, and we find ourselves with more room to maneuver now. And we're going to just try and push towards the releasing storage to the market as soon as possible, and supporting that with the core marketing assets that Herman has mentioned 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago regarding the overall thrust of just trying to keep our marketing and community assets in place and building on them as we approach storage. That gives you an overall idea of the kind of where things lie at the moment, what we're working on this week. We'll have a more strategic update and more news from Herman at some point over the next couple of days, and we can kind of just over the next few days try and get as much info out to you about the next steps in the project as well. So I'm actually going to leave it there. There's been a couple of questions from people. I just noticed that I hadn't gotten back to Robin, among other people. So if you've sent me a DM in the last few days, it's just been very busy. for all the things we're working on. So I'm going to try and reply to some of them over the next couple of hours. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to do a recap of this chat and put it out in the next 24 hours. So anyone who tuned in and couldn't kind of, maybe there's a language issue or whatever, I'm going to pop this into a Notion document and you can all read it as well. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave it there. No quiz this week because we're all quite busy, but we will have more updates and more details in the next few days, and we will be back for our next AMA, which will have hopefully some cool updates for you guys next Wednesday. Okay, guys, I'll leave it there and wish you all well.